Thank you so much for being with us today.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
What's your name and where are you from?
My name is Elijah Easton, and I'm from Washington, D.C. Born and raised. I grew up in Southeast Washington, D.C. And yeah, Anacostia Park is good stomping grounds for me growing up and doing martial arts at the local school. It was Orr at that time, but now it's named Boone. So yeah, Southeast. Doing martial arts and playing saxophone and growing up, and yeah, that's what I do.
So which neighborhood were you growing up
Well, I,
in?
I grew up on Young Street, which is in around Anacostia Park, which is in Southeast, and yeah, so it's a great part of town to grow up in, and I learned a lot just from having siblings and great parents, and a lot of good lessons just from saxophone and life. And yeah, that's
What was it?
that's what it is.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, could you talk more about what do you remember about growing up on Young Street in Anacostia at that time?
So many beautiful memories. Um, Community cleanup days. My parents were big in making sure the community, along with other community members, make sure everything stayed, clean. So we would always come out every Saturday and clean up, making sure that the street was as clean as we could. Amidst there was different, obviously, things going on in the early '90s, uh, you know, violence and different things, but that wasn't um, that didn't become at the forefront of Young Street. So it was cool to see my parents and the community stand strong during those times that DC was changing over, and to see them stand strong was a good experience for me. Mm.
What did your parents do?
Well, my dad, he's a visual artist, so that's I think that's where I kind of get the art thing from, visual arts, and my mom is also in the arts, but she's into IT, and it's a beautiful. I have a beautiful mother and amazing pop. So yeah. Hmm.
Did you grow up in a musical family? Like were your
Well,
parents
well,
musical or at least did they play records a
oh
lot
yeah,
around
my
the
dad
house?
played records all the time, man. Train and Miles, Thelonious Monk, obviously. So while he would paint, I would sit behind him as a small child, just listening to the various tunes that he would play. And I remember hearing that, first time hearing the rivet cymbals on that, on that wide cymbal beat, ding, ding, and that definitely kind of got my ear. And I didn't know what it was at that time, but I was like, man, what is that sound, So I think that's why I got a ear for the music. My dad, while he was, doing his thing painting, when I was a small child, I just remember just sitting, in the very same room and just listening and going through records. And I think that helped, my earliest foundational parts of playing saxophone. So yeah, I would
What,
attribute it to that.
what kind of things did your dad paint?
Man, that's a great question, man. My dad, um, being a great artist from Washington D.C. himself and studying at Howard University and working under a renowned artist, Simi Knox, he paints from portrait painting to all sorts of every medium. Just he could just do all mixed media type of things, and so watching him do just political pieces that he would do that represented um, what we were going through, or what people at the time, or just historically um, indigenous peoples, and what the triumph of certain situations, and watching him paint the triumph and paint the history, and watching him do what artists do, which is to respond and reflect the time that we live in, and take a page and kind of step back and look at history and have a response. So I think that's where I get my some of my creative ideas from. My parents, my dad, painting and martial
Yeah.
arts and stuff like that. Yeah. Hmm.
Talk about the martial arts. How did that come about?
Oh well, I'm the youngest of three. My brother actually retired from the UFC, um, and yeah, in the bantamweight division. Yeah, So and I helped him train for his fight. So martial arts was a big part of our lives, and still remains a big part of a discipline for me, and a place where I can just always be light on my feet, and I think of playing like that, just being like a spiritual warrior on my saxophone, and using martial arts as like a way to bring a sense of calm and peace. So yeah, so that was cool. We walking up the street, and on the way, I remember the honeysuckle rose that getting grabbing them on the way over to martial arts. My sisters learned even as a kid, and my brother just walking up through Southeast, walking to the school, and doing martial arts at Simba Dojang, which was Master Furman Martial, and yeah, that definitely helped shape my musical identity for how I maneuver my musical choices.
What kind of martial arts were you
Well,
doing?
yeah, well, we started in Taekwondo, and then we moved out to Maryland, and we there was a school close by, Lloyd Irving Mixed Martial Arts, and me, my brother, my sister, we started learning Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and Muay Thai and Thai boxing, and that really helped shape in Jiu-Jitsu, and that really helped shape our further our martial arts. But at that time, that's when I started studying more heavily into saxophone. So and that's when my brother and my sister has her black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so it's my brother, and that's my brother went all the way to the UFC. So my sister and her husband own a gym in Baltimore actually right now. Yeah. So to my point of just martial arts is really heavy in my family, and yeah.
And it was an important form of
Oh yeah.
discipline, especially in those early. Was it? Did your parents introduce it to you? Was it introduced as a kind of way to keep you guys disciplined and out of trouble?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a bit of both. Way to keep us out of trouble, just build confidence, doing competitions and things like that. I think that really helped. Uh, yeah, really helped line us, get us in, just help get us in line in a sense, and having to compete, having to be in front of people, and having to spar, even as a kid. That was man, that was super cool, a lot of fun, man. We used to go and do competitions all over the place. So
Obviously, you don't spar as a musician, really.
right.
But
Yeah, you're right.
but how much did the practice? Thinking about martial arts, practice, discipline, repetition, performing, being in front of people. How much did all of that inform you as a musician, like, or parallel your musical journey?
Uh, it helped out a great deal. Like I said, just being focused and disciplined, to have to stick to it, and having to be vulnerable in that way. I think fighting is a rhythm, and you're fighting to a rhythm. I think music is like that. You're playing rhythms, and you're responding, and there's forms and tunes. I think all of those I think they go hand in hand. So I try to respond in that way, and yeah. So it's
It made
just
me think of kind of post Love Supreme Coltrane with the bands he was doing. That felt like not
yeah,
him fighting against the music, but kind of a
yeah.
kind of spiritual battle.
Exactly. Yeah, it's definitely um, a spiritual battle, for good, and I think the choice is up to us to choose, you know, um, how we move forward. So yeah, I think musically that's my goal. I don't want people to be like, you know, look at him, or I don't want people like, man, check this out. It's about this line. I want people to feel spiritually different, that they can move forward in their own endeavors with a sense of confidence and a sense of like, a different perspective on just like moving. It's about movement, and if I can inspire people just through playing. Um, even if it's one person, that's what the
Yeah.
gig is for me. At the end of the gig, when somebody was like, man, I had such a tough week, but this was like the exact thing I needed for getting my week straight, man. Now that makes me want to, go home and and really, practice harder and really see how I can, really serve God's people, man. Yeah.
Was saxophone the first instrument you picked up, or did you pick up another instrument first?
I think it started with the recorder. Yeah, for a few, um, uh, yeah, I started with the recorder in maybe was it fourth grade, and then I went to the alto saxophone when I was at church when I was in the fifth grade. Used to see a saxophone player. He used to be up there, and I was like, man, there's that instrument again. No, there's that. That was the closest time I heard that sound again. So that's where the saxophone kind of picks up. I moved to Maryland right at the fifth grade. Moved out to Maryland.
So a recorder would have been introduced when you were in school in Southeast.
Yeah. I was at Naylor Road, and that's when I first started playing the recorder and playing a few notes. And the transition to saxophone was pretty chill. Like I can get a sound out the instrument, and my earliest notes, I remember my dad, with him being such a avid jazz fan, he would most kids, when you start off is boo boo boo. My dad would be like, nah man, I want you to like just play free, so even as a little kid, even my dad, he didn't know how to play the saxophone, but with his ears, it was cool. Thinking back now, it's kind of funny. Like he would just be like, nah, man, just listen to Train and just move your finger, just play, man. It's just keep going. So that was like my exercise. After I played, whenever my homework was, he would require me for 5 minutes to just play, and I still do that to this day. I like to start my practice kind of just playing free. Once I get through my goals for the day, I like to end the same way, just playing free, just to stay connected with my instrument, stay connected with my spirit, and stay, I guess, childlike in my in my earliest, never getting cold and stale, if that makes any sense musically. But life can, if you allow it to, has a way, it can seep into the music. So I always want my spirit to remain free, and not that I don't go through things like everybody else, that I can't play those things. But I don't, I don't. I'm real funny about making sure it's energetically I'm correct, or I'd rather stay at home.
I was gonna say, it feels like, I think many of us, wherever we grew up, perhaps were lucky enough to have some kind of school-based music programs. I remember school-based music programs kind of vary. You play these scales or these kind of hot cross buns or whatever.
Exactly.
So what did that, your dad kind of encouraging you to just play and play free like that?
Well,
obviously, that is what you did, so you can't compare it with others' experience. But how do you think, maybe comparatively, imaginatively, how did that shape you uniquely, even as a very young musician?
I think it definitely had an extremely great impact on my understanding as a young musician of the possibilities. Usually, you don't get to thinking of an instrument that young from an explorative state. It's just like, to your point, it's very like this, hot cross buns, which is good. It's very important, and I also had that running alongside. But my dad, listening to Coleman Hawkins and John Coltrane and Charlie Parker and Thelonious Monk, and me having some very small reference points, just like I was saying earlier, while he would paint. So that's where that's where we're getting some of those things, and he would we would watch some of these old videos, and he would be like, notice how Coleman Hawkins his embouchure and what he's doing, and some of those inflections, and he will make me try those things to get those notes, just try, just trying things. And I think that's, I'm so grateful, for that. So I feel like when I've showed up to certain schools, as a young, they, maybe sometimes they'd be like, well, wow, where'd you get that, from, or what's, where'd you, what you're dealing with, essentially, So I was dealing with the sound, and yeah, I think that really helped me in certain musical situations. When I was in fifth grade, I was trying those things. I went, and so once I was in eighth grade, I went over to my was it yeah, my band teacher. And I was like, I want to play like Charlie Parker. So he was surprised I even knew about Charlie Parker in the eighth grade. So I think that was very helpful for me just growing up, just to have teachers just be like, hey man, check this out. Just try to doing these things, and I think that helped help me out when I went to Duke Ellington, and that's where I met Davey Yarborough. Yeah, he's an amazing teacher, and he really helped me out with a lot of things. I met a lot of musicians on the scene who found out. It's interesting, just growing up trying to find the music. I was in high school at that time and just trying to find. I was okay. Brian Settle's in town, or Don Vontae McCoy, and I just hear names and Lyle Link and Paul Carr and Nasser Aberdeen, just names, my dad, so he would take me around, and even at those times, just to kind of like find the music essentially. So I was going around to HR 57, and I was going to every place that was having some music, and
Bohemian Caverns,
yeah,
Cafe
Bohemian,
Nina, Twins.
my dad was just taking me, just when I could, and just getting familiar with the music and how it sounded. Um, I remember going to see one, maybe even when I was fifth grade, maybe even younger. My dad was getting his master's over at Howard University, and the big band was playing over in the theater, and
The jazz
man,
ensemble.
yeah, he had a big band there. I don't know if it was the students, or it might have been, I don't know if they had someone coming out. I couldn't remember now, but just to hear that many horns,
Yeah.
that was the first time, I had heard, that many horns, in that type of configuration. I couldn't contain my, my laughter as a kid. My dad was like, hey man, let's go check out the, the big band. So yeah, man, it was a beautiful experience. Just like hearing the music, just like, wow, I was just like laughing the whole time, man. My soul was, my spirit was feeling good. So yeah, I was just putting the sounds together. I didn't know, you know, what I was going to do or how I was going to do it necessarily, but I did know I enjoyed playing saxophone. And then I remember going, first time I was at Westminster, I remember hearing, it was an outside thing. They was doing like a summer thing. It
Like
was,
the September Jazz
I
and
think,
Preservation
I
Festival.
think it was, it might have, but it felt like it was a little hotter outside. I don't know why I felt like it was the summer, but in that time,
It could have been. Yeah.
That's when I actually saw Lyle, and he was playing
Lyle
with,
Yeah.
he was playing with Michael Thomas, and I was probably like 16, and that's when I heard, yeah, we had big sound. So I was, so that's when I started, wanting to hone in on tenor. I was like, okay, the tenor. And I talked to him about it even to this day. It's like it was a silver horn he was playing on at the time. And I was like, man, me and my dad was in the audience, during those times. I was like, man, I just wanted to, start playing tenor. And then I met Brian Settles, from going to Duke Ellington, and Mr. Yarborough was like, he had a summer, youth program. So that's when I met Brian Settles. And then that really helped me out too, man. Brian is my boy. And I just remember, yeah, just that's when I started playing tenor. And he was like, hey, man, you got a pretty good sound at that thing. Maybe let's start, shedding. So, so I started moving around. So he hit me up, go over to the crib, we'll practice. And then, so that was helping me through the years. So then 11th grade comes, or 12th grade, And I believe then Wynton Marsalis comes to a school around when I was going to Duke Ellington. Mr. Yarborough took the students from myself and the rest of the students from those years. He took us over to this, I think, Hardy School, which is fairly close, and that's when I heard Wynton's big band, and you know we was all sitting in the audience, and Wynton goes, does anybody want to come up and play? you know, so I look left, I look right, and nobody nobody, essentially says up. So I said, I'll come up and play, just thinking about, the confidence of martial arts, getting in front of people. My dad would always make me, even if I didn't know I was going to play, he would be like, man, go up there. At least, at least you're going to do, man, you're going to be cool with standing in front of people while
Also,
you're figuring
if
it
no
out.
one else is stepping up, like that's a
Yeah, but that helped, so I credit definitely my pops for, helping and instill that courage to be vulnerable and be able to, uh, to do what you got, man. Play your horn. So I went up there and I met Walter Blanding and Victor Gorns and the whole band. So that was a lot
did
of
he
fun.
call a tune or did he like ask you
We
what you
we
could
played a
play? Or?
blue. Well, but first it was like he had the horn section play like a line or something like that, and then I think he was just telling the kids like everybody has their own sound. Everybody's vibe is different, so I'm gonna have all the saxophones or the tenor players, come up and they're gonna all play. It's a blues or something like that. And that was the first time I had ever, since when I was saying, as a kid with the big band over at Howard, um, that was the first time I had ever heard that many horns, the collection of sound, playing so intensely that like it was like a solo break or something. He was just, and I almost jumped. He was like, boom. It was like,
And that's also the
I
Jazz of
was,
Lincoln Center Orchestra. So
yeah,
like,
the jazz. Yeah, just, a lot of, people listen to the Jazz and Lincoln Center, this way, with the band in front of you. But to hear the band behind you is a whole, being on the stage. And that was such a great experience for me in the 12th grade. And that's when one of the times I want to do this, you know. So yeah, just been playing. Yeah.
how
Moving around.
so you start this musical journey with your dad's records and
Yeah.
and the videos. You can see if pictures of Coltrane and Coleman and Yardbird on in the kind of liner notes or on the album covers. But what does it do for you as a young musician to actually experience the music in the city with people who like Nasser or Paul Carr or Lyle Link, like people who are living and working and doing the thing here? What does that resonate with you? What impact does that
Absolutely.
have you when you're in high school and starting to explore that?
Oh, it has a great impact, on a young musician. It had a great impact on me. Um, just knowing that there was room for me, and that also that I'm a part of a lineage. Just to hear the records, and to know I'm a part of a brotherhood. I'm a part of something. I'm a part of an expression of triumph that means something, a response, and my responsibility is to uphold and to contribute to that response.
What do you mean triumph?
The triumph of, I feel like jazz is the triumph of the Black spirit. That is the response of a futureless future being told, no, 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 boom, music. So that is worth something. So I feel like the music in itself and me practicing and me contributing to the music and me teaching and me encouraging is me doing my part to continue the recognition of the triumph and being able to move forward and the idea of hope for the future through music and to be able to communicate um, with a group of people through music.
Let me go back because not many people have brought up church so far in this series. I'm curious what was I guess where were you going to church in 5th grade, and then what was the music like there? What was the impact that was having on you?
Great question. I was in 5th grade. I was going to Spirit of Faith Christian Center in Temple Hills, Maryland, and that was great for me. Like one of my best friends, my boy, his dad was the pastor, so we grew up. My boy Josh, and it was just cool. Just we just was be having it up. And I enjoyed being at church. My parents kept us in church. And I even remember before that, I don't always tell this story, but watching my parents cook oatmeal and making sure that people had, food in the neighborhood that was necessarily could have been out all night or who knew, but in order to come sit at the table, you had to go to church. So sometimes I come down the stairs, man, be real, but my dad wouldn't let, my dad had discernment. He wouldn't let nobody in his house that he knew wasn't right. But people that we knew in the neighborhood, Southeast in that time, that were still trying to figure things out, and they would come, we eat some oatmeal or whatever, eggs, get ready, we go to church. And then I remember seeing the saxophone player and an organ player. So the music at my church was great. Just definitely like Baptist, and but definitely blues, and you could hear it all. And I just remember how I felt with hearing the organ, just being able to create that type of emotion in me. And even if I saw how people respond, but I even saw how I necessarily wouldn't be someone who I would say be crying in church or necessarily all the but at the same time, how I felt internally from just hearing the organ, like it completely changed. Even I was like, even more than saxophone. I was like, wow, if I could play organ and create that type of
Spirit.
harmonies, spiritual. I had the organ player at my church. He's no longer here. He was able to make the organ come alive. So that was just real. I used to want to always sit, kind of always, be in my spot in church. I used to want to sit by the organ. So I think that helped contributes to some of my feel. And he had to get those feet going, and he could get that,
The full body workout of playing an organ.
Yeah. So I could just actually see it done correctly. Definitely helped shape, my idea of again, the possibilities. So I would just show up when the band would practice on Thursdays. So I would show up. That's when I got my first saxophone in church. So you brought up a great question, man. And so
Would you just show up, or were you trying to play?
I was trying. I didn't have a horn, and a saxophone player, Lorenzo Toppin, and he was like, man, let me get you we can find you a horn. So he had an alto. It was a Bundy. And I won't forget, it was a Bundy, and it had like leopard print on the inside of the case. It was kind of like, I never seen a one that kind of had like leopard, kind of had like a Bundy.
How very church.
Yeah, it went kind of weird. It wasn't like nothing, but it was kind of like like kind of like carpety kind of leopard, like some old Bundy case. And and I just remember, yeah. So he had two horns. He was like, all right, try this tenor. Boom. It was kind of heavy at the time. I was a kid. I was like, man, I don't know. So he's like, no. And then he passed me the alto, and boom, the alto. I was like, okay, I think I can maneuver this. So yeah, I started getting lessons. We started doing long tones. So that.
Did you play in?
Yeah, I eventually
church?
started playing in church. Sometimes I would sit and just be around. Just catch on what you can catch on sometimes, and which is well, I didn't know at the time, was in helping inform and shape the foundational things that I would need for listening on the spot as a jazz musician. There's a lot of that. Just like, hey man, no one's necessarily may tell you,
It's like your
what
dad.
to play.
Yeah.
So you listen. You gotta lean in and try to see, and just boom, boom. So that's what I was doing then. And yeah, it just got better. I used to go and sit in my room and just try to work out and try to figure things out and explore. And I met Antoine Roney. He came with his brother Wallace Roney to Duke Ellington to my
Yeah.
high school, and that completely changed. My helped change my direction. Helped let me know that there's other that wording and possibilities. So
How so?
well, I had the first time I had kind of heard an a band that wasn't from DC in a sense, or just kind of like just different musicians, or just to hear Wallace Roney. um, I could hear the level, like I just was like, man, like this cat, I didn't know who he was really. um,
You
I,
did after that.
yeah, I knew I didn't really know who he was. I introduced myself to Antoine and to Wallace. I think Kush might have been playing drums.
Kushabade,
Yeah,
Master's
Kushab,
son.
yeah. And that's another thing that I was like, man, it's a young drummer. I was like, okay, he had Rashawn Carter on bass, and I think I can't think of who was playing piano right now, but I just remember just being like, wow, and just being like, man, young, some young musicians and some cats that's playing at a high level. And then that's how I met Antoine, and I call Antoine to this day, and you know, and I actually went up to hang out with Antoine a number of times. That's my mentor right there. So that was a fun experience. Going to New York. Have a funny story. First time I went to New York, maybe it was 12th grade, 11th or 12th grade, and my parents dropped me off at the subway to go to Union Station and take the bus or something like that, and I left my cell phone.
Uh-oh.
So 17. I'm still young. Not like a grown man. I'm still young. Young man. I'm still trying to figure it out. So my mom's kind of like, you about to go to New York. You about to go to another state by yourself. you know, um, essentially. So it was cool, but it was a good experience for me. I was, I'm glad.
What did you do on that trip?
Man, I had to, luckily I remember Antoine's address. Like, I feel like, being a 90s kid, I think I was like the last of like remembering numbers and remembering addresses and stuff like that. I don't know. That was, my friends still kind of joke me to this day because they like, man, I just like remember like they like phone numbers and stuff. I don't know, man. But, so, I remember this number, and I remember I was like, okay, 122 6 or 127. I was just trying to figure out we was in Harlem. I was just trying to map it out in my mind. But I got to a payphone. So I got to a payphone.
Talk about 90s kid.
Yeah, man. I got to a payphone. Boom, boom, boom. And he called me up, man. And I called him up. And he was like, man, you cool? Like he was, he was a little worried about me, as you can imagine. I was like, man, I left my phone, told him the whole deal. But he was proud of me though. When the first trip up, you know, he was like, in New York, you made it through New York. It's up to my crib, man. You cool. So that was that was a very fun experience, man. He had a ton of horns, and mouthpieces, and definitely just that was the first time, just I recognized that New York was a possibility, and just coming up. So it was a very fun and informative time for me, and learning. He just like learn how to transcribe. He would be like, "All right, man, transcribe, man. Like, take this part. Like I want you to deal with this." And it used to be like, being a kid, sometimes you'd be like, "Can't tell you to transcribe." It's like looking up at the top, a tall building. You like, all right, let me say, I gotta get, all right, I gotta do what, So that was
What was he having you transcribe?
just some Coltrane and Don Bias, and just different Coleman Hawkins, Lester Young, just different just different solos of that. I'm a big Dexter fan, and he knows that, so he definitely passed me
Dexter
some
Gordon.
Dexter Gordon, just some things to check out. And yeah, that really helped me out. So I was just going back and forth to New York, and then I went to college in the University of Manitoba, and I studied with Jimmy Green up there, and it was great. Yeah,
In Canada?
yeah, Central Canada, Manitoba, and it was cool. It was a lot of fun. I learned.
Different for a kid
Oh,
who grew up
oh
in
yeah. So it
southeastern
was, yeah, it
Maryland.
was very different. It was very cold, but it was cool.
If I could walk back for a second, I think
Mhm.
I forgot to ask, where did you move to in Maryland?
I moved to Clinton, Maryland. Yeah, Clinton, Maryland, and then yeah, it was cool. It was different. Yeah, definitely different in Southeast. You know, some of the roads,
I
tighter
was
roads.
gonna also ask. It feels like most of them. Uh, two questions about Ellington. One, who else was there at the same time as you?
Ah, I graduated in 2009. I think it was there. Clifton Williams was there. Um, Alan Jones. Alan Jones was there. I'm trying to think. Is there anybody else in the music department that I was?
Yeah, I was gonna ask. It feels like most of the people we talk to about Mr. Yarborough, there's always, he big fan of tough love and discipline and
Oh yeah.
like really honing you to be a professional working musician. So
Oh
could you
yeah.
talk about kind of your experiences with that?
My experiences with Mr. Yarborough was great. Um, Mr. Yarborough, he taught me. So I'm trying to even think where to start.
Yeah,
Like what is going to be like the best the point. Well, he definitely helped me with my with reading music for one. Um, I when I showed up, I could hear well enough to blend, to hear the reference points, and and kind of look like I was being able to read him at a high level. But at one point he was like, "Nah, man, play by yourself." He's like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa," and I was so grateful for Mr. Yarborough for that. And to your point of tough love, of just really,
he
and it
could
wasn't,
tell.
yeah, because he was like, like, "Nah, man, we're not gonna be doing that." I was trying, certain things are just skating, and um, that was big, and that helped me out. And he was so he sat with me, you know what I mean? He didn't just be like, "Man, you need to learn how to read music." He sat with me. He was like, "Man," he invested. He was like, "Man, get you a hand clapping book. Clap these rhythms, man. Be able to read this, man. Could be able to have this stuff, man." So that was what ninth grade was like for me, just like dealing with reading
Real
music,
fundamentals.
fundamentals of the saxophone. He knew that I could move around my horn. I said when I was in high school, for the people that was going to Duke Ellington, I could move around my horn better than everybody that was moving in that building. They're playing music. It's okay. It was what it was, but I couldn't read. And that wasn't going to work. And he was like, "Where you headed, you're going to need this. Take this flute, take this clarinet. When you headed what you want to do, you're going to need these things, man." It's, nah, man. This is Brian Settle. That's why I met Brian. He was like, "Man, long tones, boom, put the air through the saxophone." You know what I'm saying? Putting air all the way through the instrument. Fundamentals, to your point. I met Charlie Young through Mr. Yarborough. And man, Charlie Young, man, so super cool, man. I did an audition for him.
For Howard.
Yeah, for Howard, and he kept it real with me. He was like, "Man, I like your sound, man, but." He's like, "You're that man. I want to make sure that reading is, to make sure that you're reading at a high level, man. Or in this, not that I couldn't read music, but it's like, sight reading and at a high level, like, the universal method and close. Those are some different things to be dealing with and to be sight reading." He wasn't rude to me or being mean to me. He's
He
just
was
like,
just
"Man,"
telling you
he's
how
just
it
telling it.
was.
Yeah, he's just, this is the level. I mean, it is what it is, and this is what I want.
He
So,
sometimes conducts the Duke Ellington Orchestra, so
and yeah,
he
man,
knows what he's talking
and
about.
how great is it to have people who really care about you to tell you the truth, man. Sometimes people could just be like, "Man, yeah, dude, yeah, oh yeah, man, Nah, man, that's not what it's really about.
It's like Charlie Parker getting the cymbal thrown at him.
Yeah,
Like,
man, I played something for Charlie Young. I was like, yeah, man, I learned this through the keys. He's like, oh, you learned this through the keys, huh? I was like, yeah, man, I learned this something phrase or something through the keys. He's kind of laughed. It was cool.
you
Man.
playing the keys or playing the saxophone?
I learned this through this, this little phrase through the, saxophone players, we say through the keys, and which means that you're learning something all the way through the keys. And then he was like, okay, cool, man, check this out. Let's play this, man. And I'm learning how to the inflections of music, and that's when I really um, really started checking out Charlie Parker, just even from the nuances from classical, to realize that Charlie Parker was doing all of those things in real time, like all of those nuances that I was trying to, obviously learn from jazz and learning from classical, trying to, I noticed there's some similarities, and there were some technical things, because that's what Charlie Young said. He was like, I wanted to play jazz. He was like, you want to play jazz? I was like, yeah, I really want to play. He was like, man, then learn classical. And I thought, I didn't know. I was like, man, but I 100% get what he's saying now.
Yeah. I mean, it probably, who knows how widespread it was then, kind of pre-internet, but there's the famous story of Stravinsky sitting there at the Birdland listening to Charlie, and Charlie sees him and quotes Rites of Spring when he's soloing. It's like,
he could do all of those things in real time, what people had to take and boom, 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 and write out, and those, markings, and he could do all of those things in real time, which is amazing, and that's the level.
How did you settle on? So was Manitoba your first choice, or what was?
I was looking at a few different schools. It was a reference by my mentor. He knew how great of a player that Jimmy Green was, and he said, "Man, he can show you how to play." Like, hey, man, like these these, check this out. Like, there's some people who can play, but there's some people who can play and show you how to do it. And some people can, once you learn your fundamentals, they can take you to the next place. And understanding, I think young musicians have to understand that, if you show up to anybody knowing your major, minor, augmented, and diminished, and triads, and they're in inversions.
Your circle of fifths. Yeah.
If you show up anywhere, any teacher, if you show up anywhere practicing your long tones, knowing your scales, and the arpeggios and its inversions, first inversion, second inversion, they'll be, okay, we can put something together. We could figure some things out. We could, so that was, my focus, and that's my focus even today. Just focusing on connecting with my spirit, and then focusing on playing my scales, my arpeggios, and sight reading, and just trying to do it every day. Not really focusing. It's not really about, let me just running a lap, and then let me see if let me see. It's really just about staying consistent every day. I'm grateful for the process.
Which sounds very martial arts.
Oh yeah, man. It's like I try to take. I think that's been, martial arts has helped me keep, stay grounded through music, because there's days, you don't feel the best. Is it, the life of an improviser. To talk to my friend, the day we was talking, the life of an improviser, a musician isn't always easy. You're spiritually, you're staying at the edge, you're being out, and you're trying to convey, you're trying to, but you're just trying to keep your head in the right space. And I think it's just about doing it every day. Check out how the samurai, just they're, some of those guys, they just very, just every day.
Yeah.
This is just, but yeah, man. Yeah, Jimmy taught me a lot, man. Just being consistent, being a real cat, man. He's a good cat. It's a good cat right there. Mm-hmm.
You came back to DC after college?
Oh yeah, I came back. And that's when I met, Thad Wilson, actually. I met Thad. Brown was like, oh, man, I was like, yo, Brown back in town. And yo, what's good? Like essentially, like he was like, oh man, what's up, bro? Like, come kick it. Dad's got a big band that he's putting together. I want you to play tenor in it, you know. So man, I'm gonna be playing tenor. You're gonna be playing tenor. Antonio Parker is gonna be playing alto. Loud Link, he gonna be playing alto. Yeah, man.
No pressure in that lineup.
Yeah, Reginald Cinci was on trombone. You know, like Joe Brotherton. I think who is I can't think of Leo Maxey maybe and some different
Yeah,
cats. And this cat, what's Doug's last name? I haven't seen Doug in a while. Cat named Doug. I'm playing trumpet as well. But that was cool, man. We were playing some charts, and then Thad would do some free things, which was like, you know, kind of touched on some of those points that I was talking about earlier with my pops, just for like working out on the horn, often, you know, yeah, just as a kid, just playing free. So that kind of holding in, working with that, and that band that really, was like the first gig, at Columbia Station. That was like my first gig back in DC, and yeah, it was cool, man. So I was going to the session. Peter Edelman had a session over there, so I was just going and
the session.
yeah. So I was just going, and just meeting. Cass was going, and Cass was going before their gigs or after their gigs. So on a Sunday jam session, I was just just showing up just so I can play, and just having opportunities just to play. There's no substitute for playing, and it was cool to just do that. So with there, and then I started subbing. Sometimes Elijah Ballbed would call me, be like, "Hey man, can you sub for me for the lounge?" And then
18th Street Lounge.
18th Street Lounge. And I'd be like, "Yeah, man, no problem." So I would.
Was that Don Vante's
Yeah,
band?
so that's when I met Don, man. Well, not that's when I first time really started playing with Don, man, and that was helpful too, man. Don is a real cool cat, man. I got always got a funny story about Don, man. He's a cat that would be like, I'd be playing. He'd be like, we would be playing the line, so he'd be like, "Nah, man, not like that," And I just remember those times that was like super like helpful to a cat. That's what I'm saying, man. You need a cat to tell you the truth, man. You need a cat to tell you, nah, man, that ain't it, man. Not like that, man. So getting certain stuff together, man. Something, just cutting your teeth. Okay, boom, okay. Then I need to learn this and do well. Okay, boom, boom. Figure this out. Just listening and learning and gaining experience, and so yeah, just working around town, and then yeah, man. I just started, growing. Just kept going, kept going.
When you came back from Manitoba, did you have an idea of? Obviously, you wanted to be a musician. Did you have an idea of how you wanted to try and build that, or were you just kind of figuring it out as
I was
you
just
went?
figuring out where the music was in my city. Coming back from college, where's the music even at? And just getting to it, just trying to find, where to,
I
where
was
to
going to
go.
say you graduated in 09.
Yeah, high school in 2009.
And graduate college in 13.
I did 2 years out there, and now I'm actually at UDC now, man.
Ah.
Yeah.
So
I did
2011, you come back.
Yeah. Come back. So I do 2 years out there, and it just got cold for me, man. It was cold. It was super cold in Canada, and kind of miss, young kid, miss my folks, man. So I just was kind of like, just figuring it out, man, here and there.
How was the city changing?
Here in DC, how's the city changing?
Yeah.
Well, there are different places to play than maybe even before COVID,
No, sorry, how was the city changing then, kind of as you're coming back on
Oh, okay, my bad.
the scene?
Yeah, the city was changing. It was I feel like it was bubbling. And I feel like there was things happening that I still was trying to figure out what was going on. So I think the city was changing, that certain like certain musicians were here. I feel like there were older musicians that certain musicians retired, and certain musicians went to New York. And it was like, I feel like this was like it was just like a flow. Certain cats would hear, certain cats was, leaving and then coming back. So it was like, it was, I feel like it was just like new possibilities, to even play, just to even, so I was checking cats out. But the cats was here, whenever I would go to certain sessions and, my dad, take, me and my pops, when I came back, we were still checking out music, and I was telling him, hey man, I wanted him to see me play. My mom, I'm playing here, Columbia Station, or little places around town, trying to cut my teeth, that they would definitely come out and see me. But yeah, so I would.
Were you doing other stuff during the day, like day jobs kind of stuff?
Not at first, I was just trying to figure it out, and then I was doing. I worked at Laser Ship, so I was like, delivering packages, and I was showing up to the gig, had my Laser Ship shirt on, how to switch up, So I was definitely doing, a few things to keep balance, but then, yeah, I just jumped in it, man. Just, I was like, man, I can't be showing up to the gigs. I felt like I was showing up to my gigs tired from the Laser Ship, packages and stuff all day, man. I'd be like, man, kind of tired. But yeah, it worked out for me. So I just stayed, stayed with it, man. Stayed,
What did throwing yourself at it
yeah.
kind of full time look like?
It was cool, man. It was just learning every day. You know what I mean? I was grateful that I could learn on gigs. You know what I mean? Like, that the scene believed in me, and then some days, it's still like I went outside and busked. It didn't really, you know what I mean? It was whatever it was, and that's not. And some people look at it, the wrong way. I got sometimes more gigs from people being like, "Hey man, can you do this and that?" Then sometimes maybe playing at one spot, maybe nobody may say nothing to me to continue. So it's all about just being grateful for where you are, not in the moment, in the space. So I was just happy to play, and I feel like if I was playing and if I was doing my responsibility to take care of the music would take care of me, and that's what I was told. I remember. Marcus Strickland, he came to my high school, and that's the first cat I heard say that, and that sticks with me today. He was like, he was like, man, this great tenor player, and was here and there and there, boom, 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 boom. He was like, man, but there was still room for him. That's what he said. He was like, man, there's still room for me, which means there's still room for you. He was like, if I got a gig, and boom, he said, we all can't be, we all can't be everywhere, so there's room for you. And that's what I tell musicians, young musicians, today. Every time I'm like, hey man, there's room for you. Play, learn, study, grow, do what you want to do, take care of the music, and the music will take care of you.
Especially, it sounds like you, for continuing to do that in your hometown is important.
Yeah, for sure, man. Definitely important.
Who are you playing, like, who you're playing with? How are you? Oh, that's right. You had the service bar gig.
Yeah.
For a while.
Yeah, I had that for a while.
In the before COVID.
Yeah. With Thelonious Monk, Dana Hawkins, man, that was a lot of fun, man. I had a blast. That was a learning experience for me too, man. Just to
How so?
Well, but with Taurus, man, just how Taurus play, just to play with a bass player like Thelonious Monk, that can only help. That can only help your playing, man. That helped my playing in ways that I couldn't see. You know what I mean? Just like Taurus is a bass player that got your back. Like he, no matter what you play, it's cool. you're gonna be, he got you. He's not gonna leave you out there. I'm not suggesting that of other bass players by saying. I'm just saying from the cat I played with for years, he got my back.
Yeah.
And I play. There's a lot of great bass players in town that do that as well. And that's why I hit them up. But yeah, Taurus, man, he had your back, and it helped me think of the beat in different ways. There's room. So there's possibilities.
I mean, he's a much more fluid bass player, not really a timekeeper.
Yeah, he made me think about time, differently. It's just like there's different possibilities. This is what you want. So just having a gig, every week, certain things. It's like I think the music has a lot of dialects, if you would, and just like right now, we could come up with our own, just even in this interview, if we had whatever, we could come up with our own, thing. And I think just from knowing, language and maybe certain words, or now, we want to use, whatever Brooke Bitten today to like come up with a slang, whatever we want, to make a new language or whatever from the environment that's around us. So it was cool to develop our own kind of like way of, communicating, having fun. Cats would come through and play, and I think it was a lot of fun, and it really helped me. Just help my ears help continue my development. Mm-hmm.
One of the, I don't want to say gigs, but one of the bands you played with regularly was Nog Champa.
Yeah.
How did that? And we've talked a lot about kind of classic jazz, but how did you start that kind of hip hop new?
Wow.
I don't want to say new music in that, because that's a formal thing, but that, very modern DC kind of project.
Yeah, that's a great question, man. Actually, Nog Champa started on this very street, man. So me and Alan would be...
We're shooting at HR Records. Alan's father ran a music school just on 3 doors down, basically.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Alan Jones' dad, Harlan Jones, ran a music studio. A few doors, like you said, a few doors down. And after school and in the summertime, me and Alan would just go and practice, right? So that was like our normal thing. So one summer, Jamal Gray, I think he was living like a few blocks over. I think he was just in the neighborhood. I think, probably grabbing a few snacks from, the store or something like that. I think he was just walking past. It's like, hey, yo, heard the tenor and the drums. And then I think Alan and Jamal may have already mutually known each other, and I was like, yo, what's up, man? So yeah, I met Jamal. He was like, man, I'm trying to put a band together. I'm gonna hit y'all up, So that's how it started. He said, I'm gonna bring my laptop. I'm gonna show y'all I got some beats, different and the third, man. I'm gonna come through, and he's like, all right, we're gonna be here. Here's where we be. We just be coming over here, man. We be, just be sharing and making music, bro. We'll be doing that, but he's be here. So he came through, brought his laptop. We was like, oh man, these joints cool, bro. So we started essentially playing along to the beats that he had, So now we was like, okay, so that just the three of us. So that kind of started there. And I think he's like, man, I think my brother, I'm gonna hit him up. He's thinking, my brother wants to, do some singing and different. So I think it just kind of like, my boy Miles is gonna, play percussion. So we just kind of put it together, and we just started playing, man. Started practicing over here and playing along to the tracks and see, and then started getting a few gigs, and that's all she wrote, man. Mm-hmm.
Who else have you played with a lot over the years? Who else have you played with a lot over the last 12 years since you came back from Canada?
Man. I remember, that's a good question, man. Just playing with different cats in town, man. Just, different cats would, they would lead their band. And I played with Joe Brotherton for a number of years. And like I said, Don Vontae, McCoy. Then I was playing with this cat Daryl Green, who actually knows Antoine Roney really well. Daryl Green, he lives in New York, actually. So I still play with him, So I was playing in a band with him and this bass player Tom DiCarlo, and Wally Roney, which is Wallace Roney's son, and Wally's great on trumpet, and Jordan Young. I was playing alto, and I was playing tenor. So it was 3 horns and drum and bass, and it was my first time playing in New York.
Where did you
So
guys
yeah,
play?
yeah, just like we played at Fat Cat, so it was cool. It was cool to just play, take the bus up to New York. Just again, it's just 12th grade. I was hanging, but I wasn't going out and really playing. So just that, play a gig, play somewhere in New York was cool, man. So came up, did the rehearsal, and yeah, we did the gig, and yeah, that's how I started. And we started, doing some dates, and we played at Smalls, and we played in Connecticut. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. And yeah, so we was playing around, and yeah, man, just going back and forth between here and New York.
There's so much emphasis.
Oh man,
Bless you.
thanks.
As well, we know in the jazz world to go to New York, but you've been here
Yeah.
the whole time. Kind of what never tempted you away?
Well, I think DC I like the speed of DC. I think DC is a good spot to come back to, like getting off the road or just kind of like it's chill. I like to chill. The speed in New York is cool. It's fine. It's just
Different.
it's just different. It's like a different thing, and you could talk to certain cats in New York, and it's like New York is different. It's changed. New York has had its different time. It's tons of great players, and there are places to play. When you play there, it's like you gotta. It's a lot of just a lot of cats. You gotta have so cats are making their. It's cool to see New York cats make theirs like every place may not be the same or places come and go just like every COVID, everything has affected everybody in a way and trying to get back, and just to see New York maneuver and hustle. I love New York's grit and hustle, and I love how they yeah, man, everybody rehearses, man, everybody just plays at a high level, which just is what it is. But I know I've heard some cats be like, man, it's not the places to play. I'm just hesitant in trying to say that, but it's the truth. Sometimes some of the places to play isn't how it once was, but that don't mean it's gonna always be like that. Things of flow, So New York is, I'm not there every day to say what is and what is not, but my times that I have gone there, I've had a lot of fun, and I've had some places to play at, but some places have been different. Like you showed me, oh man, okay, no, that's not where it's. So just trying to find, where's the, where's the spots that, that's happening.
Well, going back to kind of near the beginning of this interview, what was the first show you saw at Westminster?
The first show I saw at Westminster was like I said, it was outside with Lyle Link and Michael
Right.
Thomas. Yeah. And I think did I get to play that day? I think that's when I met Dick Smith. And he was like, "Oh man, young buck, you gotta play. Don't go nowhere, man." So he got me up on one of those outside stages, and I played. And he was like, "Yeah, man." So it was cool. And then I started coming back on the Fridays, some of the Friday nights. And man, it's so a lot of different, number of bands through the years. Once we knew that was going, I think me and my dad must have just been driving through. It was like, oh, it's some horn, like we was always kind of like looking for the music. We said, oh man, something going on in the church, and we said, okay, so that's how we got hip to Westminster. And
do you remember who else you saw?
Yeah, I definitely saw Mr. Yarborough and his wife, Sister Williams, there. I think there was Wes Biles, and I couldn't tell you the rest of the band that was there that day.
Sure.
So many different cats. Alan Johnson. I think I might have even met Alan Johnson. First time I seen him playing might have been Westminster.
Do you remember the first time you played there? Besides Dick calling you up on stage,
right. Just the first time I did a date, yeah.
Like either you as a band leader or playing with
man.
someone else.
Oh man, you might have got me on that one. The first Westminster date. Was it with Thad? What was it? I couldn't tell you, man. It might have been with Thad. There's a chance it was with Thad. Because I think first time I played with at Bohemian Caverns, he was doing some dates Thad was doing some dates over there. So he had called me up. So that's kind of like all that stuff was kind of happening at the same time, you know. Columbia Station with the big band, and then he kind of, after, you know, some time there, he said, hey, man, I got a date they'll be at Bohemian Caverns. Should come, should play, you know. So that was cool, man. So it was cool to hang with the cats, man. DC got some cool cats to hang, man, with before the gigs, man. Thad's cool cat, Miss Cat Manby. Has the cat here at the crib making pizza, man. Before, all right, man, we're gonna have some pizza, man. Fire up some pizza, man. It's cool listening to records, man, and drive down to the gig, man. So cats, you know.
Not a bad way to live.
Yeah, man. Cat, man, I ain't trying, you know, I ain't, you know, cat, you know, Thad know you're balling, man. Ain't talking about his stuff on the cam, man. But no, we have fun, man. Just, you know. So I credit to, you know, the scene and my friends to, you know, having the you know, being disciplined and having a cool, the cool hang, man. Having a, you know, you gotta have the cool snacks. you gotta eat good.
Yeah.
You know, and roll to the gig, man. You know, be cool.
What do you see as Westminster's role in the scene now?
That's a great question too. Westminster represents a place, even a beacon, if you would, of a place that, you know, every Friday night that a band is going to be there. I think of it as a great place for community too. Like, you know, what is the sound of jazz in DC today, you know, and hearing how cats are playing down there today, because they do a great job at getting so many different, you know, bands and different cats. So it's cool to see. It's cool to see that. We good? Yeah. Just DC is yeah, great. Yeah, Westminster is a great space for DC's musicians to holding the you know, the very long list of talented musicians, and just to have us have the opportunity to not only just play with just to hang, like I'm thinking of like Steve Novosel. It's not sometimes in certain situations. I love our profession. You can play with someone who is, you know, 30, 40 years, or, you know, just someone that's got years on you. And it's cool to have bands that have, you know, different cats with different ages. You can learn so much. Yeah, man. I've learned a lot, just a lot of stories from the guys on the scene. That's just that they have, man, I can sit and listen to those cats just talk about, you know, just what DC was like, you know, even for them, just, you know, playing on the scene and what things were like, and, you know, and I think that gives more clarity for the spaces that I occupy and the town that I'm moving around in. You know, Charlie Rouse lived here, and, you know, people here, you know, so that means something, you know, what was his time like in this town, you know, moving around. And I think that's worth note. That's worth, I think about those things when I practice, you know, everybody else is around doing the same things and trying to do their part. So, yeah.
I mean, I was thinking of you for the series because I saw that we're shooting this in March 2026, and in April, you're playing there twice.
Where's that now?
I think you're playing there twice next month, right?
I didn't hear what you said though.
We're shooting. All right, sorry. We're shooting this in March of 2026, and I think you're playing. One of the reasons I wanted to get you in on this interview series is you're playing at Westminster.
Oh yeah.
Twice next month.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
With Michael Bowie and
yeah.
Forgetting who else.
I'm playing Mike Bowie on the 3rd.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think I just have it once.
Oh,
Yeah, maybe just once.
well, at least the once. But
Yeah. If it's twice, then I might have to. I'm like, wait. He said, wait. I'm definitely playing with Mike Bowie on the third, man. Mm-hmm.
and that's also the thing about that space is you can see folks like you, folks like Alan Johnson, who's been on the scene.
Yeah,
You can
man.
see Michael Bowie, who's been out with all these, with Betty Carter and Isaac Hayes and these legends.
Oh yeah. Mike, man, Mike. Man, I always joke with Mike, man. Tell him how killing he is, man. Who he's played with, man. You know, he's like, all right, go ahead, man. So we're gonna have some fun. Mike's a cool cat. But Westminster's helped out the scene immensely, and just to see the community support over the years, and have a place to check out jazz in DC for this long too. The consistency, I think that consistency.
27 years.
Yeah, that 27 years. That consistency is worth talking about and celebrating, and helping, push forward and making sure everybody, me included, what can I do and what can we all do to help continue the longevity, and make sure that we can preserve Westminster's jazz series as long as we can. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time today.
I appreciate you, man.
Perfect.